Welcome to Brother from Another on a beautiful Tuesday. And this Tuesday is more beautiful than normal because my brother Vinny Goodwill here has plans to come to Boston. I mean, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited, Vinny. The NBA Finals are going to be here. You are a son of Detroit, but a welcome guest of Boston at any time. When you get to Logan Airport, there will be red carpet out for you. Lucky the Leprechaun will be there to greet you. You will be draped. It will be the red carpet, but you'll be draped in green. Get you like a green cape. Welcome to Boston, Vinny. I can't wait to see you. Aren't you excited?
I'm about as excited for Boston as Boston is excited for me. Okay, so every time I go to Boston, this is the feeling that I get. You ready? You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You know, Boston opens its arms, it welcomes itself to you. Hey, welcome. Take everything that Boston has to offer. We are happy to have you here. Now, move it along now. Go back on home now. That's what it feels like with Boston.
Yeah, thanks for visiting, but you're not staying, are you? And if you're buying, you're not buying in this neighborhood, are you?
No, heavens no.
That's all right, though. Hey, listen, we love it. We love it. We love everybody. We love everybody in Boston. But I gotta say, because you take some shots at Boston, and I have a lot of love for Detroit. I want to start here. I have a lot of love for Detroit. I always have. Shout out Diana Ross and many others with Motown connections. I'm always saying nice things about Detroit, but I will say this. After looking in your feed, because we're going to talk about the NBA Finals, but before we go there, I feel like Detroit's refrain is always, what about us? But what about us when we talk about the biggest, the toughest, the most talented, the most creative? If we talk about Chicago, LA, New York, whatever, Detroit is always there with what about us? And right on cue today, NBA Finals, there are some who believe that Luka and Kyrie, best backcourt of all time. Here comes Vinny saying, what about us? Don't forget. But in this case, Vinny, I think I may be with you. I think I may be on your side. I think we may have forgotten about, I think you're talking about Dumars and Isaiah, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And so what's the case? What's the case for them before we get into Luka and Kyrie in the finals? What's the case for Isaiah and Joe?
Well, the case is in the record books, right? Because when you look at their back-to-back championships, Dumars won Finals MVP in '89. Isaiah won Finals MVP in '90. No other backcourt can tote that, not Steph and Klay Thompson, right? And when you talk about stylistically, we think of Isaiah as being a quintessential point guard who could score. We don't think about Joe Dumars as being the shooting guard who could play point when Isaiah was running on some of those hot streaks. So when I think about backcourts, I think about players who play well together, whose skill sets match, and not just in their era. That skill set would have translated to any era. I would make the argument that Isaiah and Joe would be much better in today's era, where you can't touch anybody on the perimeter, where there's a freeway to the basket. Like Joe Dumars would probably be a better three-point shooter, or more volume three-point shooter. Isaiah would just be going to the basket, getting layups all day. Can you imagine how easy that would be? Not to mention the defensive capabilities of Joe Dumars, an all-defensive team, not just a guy who could play defense, a guy that was locking you up. And when we think about the bad boys, we think about tough, and you think about physical defense, you think about fouling. But Joe Dumars was all defensive team, and he wasn't all defense because he was hacking. He was all defense because he was shutting you down and doing so at 6'3". Steph and Klay are interesting. I like Steph and Klay a lot, but playing off of each other, can Klay run point while Steph is hot? No, couldn't really do that.
But they both, I would say, the reason I said Steph and Klay, and I think it's pretty obvious that to me, like they're one. And then everybody else is in the conversation because they did change the game. Can you say that Isaiah and Joe, did that backcourt change the way we look at basketball, change the way we coach basketball, talk about basketball? I'd say both of those guys, Steph, unquestionably, but Steph and Klay in combination, I'd say it's a backcourt. It was a historic backcourt because it changed the basketball landscape.
Well, I tend to agree with you, at least on that part. But here's the thing. Isaiah and Joe are so unique, you can't replicate that. You can't find another two-guard rotation like that. And then you add Vinnie Johnson off the bench, the highest scoring, the best three-guard rotation in the history of basketball. I defy you to find another set of three small guards. Like neither one of these guys. Isaiah was 6'1", Vinnie Johnson 6'2", Joe Dumars, the giant of the three, at 6'3". You know what I mean? Like they were able to do things at their respective sizes that you can't duplicate, that you can't find anywhere else. So the uniqueness of it, I think, has the case as far as changing the game goes with you. It's apples to oranges. Like you're not going to lose either way. I have my Detroit sensibilities of the thing. So, that's how I sit. I can admit that I'm biased. I can admit that I have a horse in the race. I feel like we're going to get to some topic later in the show, or maybe in a little bit, that has to do with a lot of horses in the race.
Yeah, well, I will say that is a fair guess. So I think it's a little premature to go with that. We're talking about Isaiah and Dumars, fine. Talking about Steph and Clay, fine. We've seen that. They got the credentials. We got shiny rings. We got all kinds of things. We got historical perspective. We got some distance from it. I think we may be too premature in the moment looking at Luka and Kyrie as the best backcourt ever, especially when they haven't won anything yet. And I say anything yet, maybe I should just say they haven't won anything, because I don't think this series is going to go well for them as a collective. I mean, they'll put up their numbers. They always do. Luka has the ball in his hands. He's going to have a double or two in this series. That's just how he rolls. I don't really love the matchup for the Mavericks. What do you see? I mean, I know they've improved defensively with their midseason acquisitions. I love the way these guys are playing off of Luka and Kyrie. I saw a play in the Minnesota series. It was Game 5, and Luka even started laughing at one point because he goes to the basket. He's not even looking. He just throws the ball up early, expecting one of those big guys to come in and dunk it. They mistimed it. It went off the backboard. The player got the ball anyway and still dunked it. And Luka started laughing because that's really that's been a lot of their offense in the postseason. They lead all postseason teams in dunks. They've been doing some work in the paint because of Luka and Kyrie, but I don't like the matchup. How about you?
I think this is going to be one of those styles make fights. This is like Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield. You know what I mean? Like this is literally, the bruiser against the puncher. And I think this is going to be an exciting one. And I don't think it's a bad matchup for Dallas, at least from this point. They have the size and they have two elite shot makers on the perimeter. And I know Boston has great switchable defenders. You can switch Derek White, you can switch Drew Holiday, you can switch Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. All those guys are adept, right? But do you want Jaylen Brown using all of his energy on Luka Doncic? With Luka, with that 240-pound frame, dipping his shoulder into you when you know you're going to need Jaylen Brown's offense. You can't put Derek White on him because he's too light in the pants. You don't want to put Jason Tatum on because you don't want to get him in foul trouble. I'm thinking Denver. Boston has to make a choice and say, are we okay? Is this an acceptable amount of scoring that we can give up from Kyrie or Luka and try to double the other? Because Boston doesn't like to double. And that's everything that Luka loves to do, is create the double teams, to create the advantages on the backside. And if Boston doesn't double, that's going to be not good for the Celtics. As great as they are defensively, I don't know if that's good. And Luka can hunt those switches. So you put Al Horford out there, lunch meat. What's the Luke Cornett? Lunch meat. This is not a great matchup in that way for the Celtics. I'm not sure who will win or lose. I'm still kind of straddling the fence a little bit, but I don't think this is a bad matchup in the way that you think. I think your green-colored glasses, I think Lucky has gotten to you.
Yeah, well, Lucky probably has gotten to me a little bit. I would say the reason I think it's a bad matchup is defensively. Now, you just talked about all the problems, and I agree with you. All the problems that Luka presents offensively. I mean, he's a guy who will find any kind of mismatch. He'll find you, even like we usually say this about sometimes quarterbacks. They'll throw you open, or when you're covered, they still get the ball to you. So Luka is like that too, especially finding dudes in the corner. Like I could just watch all day some of the B-roll of Luka standing there with the ball, then all of a sudden whipping it across the court, and the ball just kind of sails past somebody's fingertips into the hands of a waiting defender in perfect shooting position, and they pop the three. So he is really good at that. What he's not good at is defending. Like I've watched him the entire postseason. It's a marvel to me, Vinny, that a guy who is not 100%, who has told you he's not 100% right now in the postseason, is not a great defender when he is 100%, has been able to get by playing some version of off-ball linebacker and free safety. Not even one of those strong safeties crouching up to the line to give you 8 in the box. He's just kind of like free safety, center field, kind of stepping in the paint, stepping out. I just think the Celtics are going to have a good time attacking Luka and attacking Kyrie defensively. I think it's just a bad defensive matchup for the Dallas Mavericks. I don't see any way out of it.
I think you're not giving Luka the credit that he has warranted defensively. One, the more increased physicality allows him to use that frame where he could get in the way of Jaden McDaniels or get in the way and plug holes when it came to Anthony Edwards. Like, he ain't stopping nobody. Like, let's be clear, right? But Dallas has such a strong team defense with length at the rim and length on the wings with Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington, two excellent additions to this roster this year. Like, you don't have to stay with a guy the whole way. And here's the other thing. Let's be perfectly honest. The Celtics do not have a blow-by-you guy. Like, Jason Tatum gets to the bucket, but he's not first stepping you to the bucket. You know what I mean? Jaylen Brown is probably more athletically inclined in that way, but he's not a pum type of here you see me, now you don't type of athlete. So while I think that Luka will have some problems there, I do think that Dallas will try to hide them. I think this is as evenly a matched series as you can expect. And here's the other thing about this that I don't think we've given Dallas the credit for just yet. Think about the teams that they beat. They beat 51 team Clippers, right? Championship aspirations. The number 1 seed, Oklahoma City Thunder, 57 wins, right? Championship aspirations, even though a lot of us thought that they were too young. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that knocked off the champs in their home building. So you beat 3 50-win teams on the road to the finals.
Yeah,
I think how you get there and who you beat says a lot.
That's true. But I'm going to tell you this. I got in my 50s, I got a sore finger here. I got a sore finger here. It's a little bent up. It's sore. My knee hurts right now. I'm just like, just got some aches and pains. I need like shoulder massages and foot massages just to get myself right. So I'm 54.
You letting somebody touch your feet? You got fetishes?
Only one. Why is it a fetish?
I'm not a feet person. I don't like feet. Keep it away from me.
Okay. And part of the body. It's a part of the body. It's like it's your hands and your legs and your feet. I mean, like, come on. It's a part of the body. Why do people call it a fetish? Why are we making this thing weird? Anyway, that's a different show for a different time. It's a different show for a different time. But I would say this. My point is, at 54 and you approaching 40 very rapidly, if we play in 2-on-2, I would take me and you. I'll go down and take on some 23, 24-year-olds and feel very good about our chances. Why? Because we got experience. And they got the athleticism, we got experience, and they should beat us, but they don't know what they don't know. And we're gonna do some give and goes on them. We're gonna run. So eye contact, okay, throw it over there. It's just experience will beat you. So Dallas, yes, I'll give you credit for going on the road. I'm not going to give you credit for beating the Clippers. It's the Clippers, Lord.
Wow.
Kawhi Leonard. Oh, did Kawhi Leonard play? Oh, no. Once again, you kidding me? Kawhi Leonard didn't play? What? Kawhi Leonard's hurt? Anyway, they beat the Clippers. No credit there. OKC, much respect. Number 1 seed, they don't know what they don't know. I love their future. They're present right now. Just not ready yet. Not mature enough. Same thing with Minnesota. Minnesota's immaturity showed in the like 5 minutes after their Game 7 win, where Anthony Edwards goes on TNT and says, "Oh yeah, Kyrie, I want to see how we do. Hey, him and me. That's my matchup." Come on, bruh. That's just inexperience.
You had a problem with that? You had a problem with that?
Not as a journalist, I didn't. As a journalist, I loved it. As a storyteller, I loved it. But, hey, right now, who's talking trash right now? You've noticed Dallas and Boston, rose petals back and forth. Kyrie, hey, I learned some lessons in Boston. Jason Tatum, oh, I have fond memories of those 2 years with Kyrie. No, you don't, Jason. No, you don't. The first year, Kyrie, he played 60 games. It was great. Then he was out for the playoffs, and you guys went to Game 7 without him. The second year, he tried to do Joker walking away from the hospital in Batman. Blew up the thing. Hey, did I do that? That was Kyrie in Boston in year 2. It was a disaster. It was a dumpster fire. You didn't enjoy it. Nobody enjoyed watching it. Other teams in the NBA, your opponents felt sorry for you. So look, they're doing that thing that they're supposed to do because they're smart. But, you know, the experience of Dallas is what
what experience does Boston have? Explain to me this great one. They've been there and lost, right? Like you can go there and continue to lose. Like what is the experience unless you win?
I haven't seen a lot of that. I haven't seen a lot of people who go and continue to lose. I've seen some examples. You know, we know that Utah did it against Michael Jordan. Went there a couple of times and lost. Portland did it. Went a couple of times and lost. But I know some teams who have gone there. Your Detroit Pistons, again, to bring this full circle before we take a break. Your Detroit Pistons went there, lost to the Lakers, and that pain.
Got robbed.
Got robbed.
Stolen.
Yes, they did. They did. Game 7. That was bad.
They got robbed in Game 6. The phantom foul that wasn't on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then in Game 7, they just decided to let the fans storm the court. It was January 6th, except it was June 21st, 1988. Can you believe that shit?
I can. Yes, I can believe it. But the pain, the good teams, and I think I'm putting the Celtics in that category. You know, we'll see. We'll know later this month whether I'm right or wrong. I think they're the team that goes and loses, feels the sting of it, and then comes back and corrects it. Some teams feel that sting, and they go back and feel that sting again, and they're just not able to overcome their limitations. I just think the Celtics are the superior team.
5. Oh, my Lord.
I think they're the superior team. I think they are a superior team to the Dallas Mavericks.
So you think this is
the
as
Mavericks
big a
are a good
mismatch?
team.
No.
Yeah.
So you think this is as big a mismatch as last year with Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets beating the Miami Heat, the same Miami Heat team that lost in the NBA Finals in the bubble, that had the pain of losing and came back a couple years later to use your theory.
Didn't have enough.
And they came back and lost.
They're that team. See, I'm not surprised by that because I don't think Miami is a championship team. Like
okay, now answer me this.
Pat Riley said Jimmy Butler is the X factor, and getting Jimmy back and getting him playing. If you get Jimmy Butler back, I do not think the Miami Heat are a championship team. I think the Celtics are.
Okay. Now I will lend you on this. I will end you on this. You are a NBA historian just like I am. Now, if you would agree with me that the best player on the floor in this series is Luka Doncic, right? I think we're in agreement that Luka Doncic is better than Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, right?
Offensively.
No,
Offensively,
no,
yes.
don't parse it. Who's the better player?
No, I don't. I don't then. Then I don't. I think Tatum's better. If we're going to look at the whole thing, I think Tatum is better. Luka, how do you just, how are we just going to shrug on defensive impact? How are we going to shrug that away? Luka is a better offensive player than Jason Tatum. Yes. But in totality, I'm sorry. I got to have more than that. You got to give me more than just holding the ball at all times and racking up triple doubles because you got the ball all of the time. You got to give me something on defense. And this is his first trip to the NBA Finals. Jason Tatum is criticized for going to too many conference finals and not delivering. Luka just finished his second conference finals. They're the same age. So what are we doing here? Luka has played with Kyrie. Luka has played with Kristaps Porzingis. If he's supposed to be some transformative player, then aren't we judging him on winning too? Don't you have to impact winning?
Well, I mean, you said it yourself. You say it all the time. The Boston Celtics are a historic organization, or a well-run franchise. The Dallas Mavericks have not always been. They are right now with Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd there, but they haven't always been. They've had drama there. It took them a few years to get it right. So Jason Tatum has benefited from the organizational structure and the history and the ethos of the Boston Celtics. That hasn't been the case in Dallas. And I would tell you this, you name me a better series win that Jason Tatum has on his playoff jacket than Luka Doncic when he took down the number one seeded 60-plus win Phoenix Suns to get to the Western Conference Finals in 2022, blowing them out on their home floor in Game 7 with a 40-piece. Name me something that Jason Tatum has done. Now, I know he got that 50-point game against the Philadelphia 76ers, but it's the Philadelphia 76ers. Tell me the signature suitable for framing series win that ranks.
Who the hell is Phoenix? Who are the Phoenix
Phoenix
Suns?
went to the finals. Philadelphia hasn't even been to the conference finals. They haven't been to the conference finals since my black ass was in high school. Okay?
Right. So how about
I was in
Milwaukee?
high school. You just put my age out there. You put my age out there. So now we can say that Vinny's damn near 40. Philly was last in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2001.
Okay. So I'll say another great win was against Milwaukee when they were down 3-2. And the year after Milwaukee won the championship, so 2022, so I think the same year, right? They're down to Milwaukee 3-2. They have to go to Milwaukee for a Game 6, and everybody's getting Bucks in 6. You know, the crowd, they get Bucks in 6. And he puts up, I think it was close to 50 points in that game to save their season. They come back home and win Game 7, which propels them to the conference finals. And
there's no Chris Middleton there, but I'll cede you that. I will call a draw, but there was no Chris.
But I will say this as we get ready for Natalie Esquire coming up after this music. I will say this, man. The number one story here is somebody's going to win the NBA championship. But the number two story is somebody is going to change their reputation after this. It might be if Jason Tatum and the Celtics win, maybe Tatum is considered the better player. I'll agree with you. Most of basketball America agrees with you. They think Doncic is clearly better than Tatum. That could change. And then if Doncic and Dallas win, hey, we ain't talking about Luka's defense. We ain't talking about that. Hey, Luka is now, we're having a conversation. I can predict the headline now. Is Luka Doncic the face of the league? We'll have those conversations. This is all at stake. Starting on Thursday, NBA Finals, and you're in Boston. Enjoy a nice, rainy New England weekend, Benny. It's going to be 67 degrees in June.
Ugh.
It is what it is. I feel like I'm just at the point where you accept it and don't retaliate. Just let them hit you. Be what it is. Don't let it get inside your head, and know it's coming. I think at this point, I know I'm going to take a couple hard shots a game, and that's what it is. It doesn't. I'm trying not to let it bother me, and just stay in the game is saying what's important, because usually it's the second person that gets caught if you retaliate or something. So just trying to stay in the game and focus on my team and focus on what's important.
I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything.
That's enough. We're good.
What the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow. There is a superstar. And we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar.
All right, yeah. So that last voice you heard, Pat McAfee, on his show on ESPN, dropping that line to defend Caitlin Clark, to promote Caitlin Clark, to make the case, in his opinion, that Caitlin Clark is driving this thing, driving the popularity and driving the interest in the WNBA. Of course, this conversation is happening, Natalie, because Chennedy Carter just went after Caitlin Clark on the court. It was a foul. It was not called as a flagrant foul initially, but after it was upgraded to a flagrant one, rightfully so. But it has led to a whole conversation about what this is and the severity of this foul and what the WNBA is, and are people jealous of Caitlin Clark? There's a lot to untangle, and I know this is something you're very passionate about, Natalie. Tell me what stands out to you. Like, out of all that mountain, those mountainous stories, that mountain of stories, what stands out to you as your first point?
I mean, I'm just going to start with Pat McAfee, like the privilege, because I don't know why he thinks it's okay to get on air and call a woman a bitch. And let's be clear, I understand that that word can be used in a way where you're not trying to offend, but men don't get to do that. It's like the way we say white people can't use the M word. I'm sorry, men, y'all just got to understand that. You don't get to come on air or to us or talk about us and refer to a woman as a bitch. Like, you just don't. And I thought those were societal rules that we understood, but apparently we don't, okay? So it was completely inappropriate of him. And, especially because Caitlin Clark has come on his show, right? But that's a privilege. That's a privilege he has as a white man, that he knows he can do that. To my knowledge, I haven't heard yet, but from what I see, he's doing his show. He's doing his show again today. So he issued some little measly apology and just gets to keep going. And I don't even think if a black man said that same thing about about Caitlin Clark on their airwaves, that it would be okay. So there's his privilege as his race, but then of being a man. And to think, if the only thing that happens to you is that you got to issue an apology for calling a woman a bitch, that's pretty disappointing, because it's like, why does he, like, not even a day suspension, not anything? I'm setting the bar low. I'm not expecting that he's going to be terminated, okay? But we can't even get any kind of official statement from ESPN. We can't get a reprimand. He can't get any kind of suspension. That's it. An apology where it was a half-assed apology, where he tried to justify it, and then boom, he's back to being on air saying what he has to say. I don't know if that is the worst thing to me or what is right now. There's a lot of things in my head, but I want to start with that, because we just need to make it clear. Like, you may call us whatever you want behind the scenes, but you do not get to go on TV and call a woman a bitch like that. You just don't get to do that.
Yeah, Natalie, you're absolutely right. It's ridiculous, Vinny, that he did that. And then in his apology that Natalie referenced, he said, yeah, I'm sorry for that part, but everything else I said, which was also wrong, everything else I said is facts. No, man. No, it's not. It's almost like people, and you say this in your feed, Vinny, like, those who don't know maybe need to keep quiet. The WNBA has been going on for a long time. There are people who have their fingerprints in the foundation of the league. The league is going on 30 years old. It's almost 30 years old. It's been around for a bit. So Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and many others, and even Asia Wilson has been around for a while. They all have people to thank who started this thing before them. Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops and Teresa Witherspoon. I mean, there are so many people in this league, in this game, who have been a part of the league. Some people who have just shown up, Vinny, act like it's an expansion league.
Well, I think that's the thing that you welcome in. You know, it's like when you open the door and your grandma yells at you, you gonna let the good air out, you gonna let these flies in. Sometimes the flies come in when you have an open door, and the WNBA right now has an open door. Sometimes you're gonna get bad actors. Sometimes you're gonna get people who feel like they know everything, even though they have a baseline knowledge of what's going on. And I think that's a natural human thing, right? I'm not saying what Pat McAfee says is a natural human thing. I'm just saying from a broader perspective, sometimes people feel like they know more than they do. They open their mouths, and then it turns out that they don't know, 10% of what they should. I think this Caitlin Clark thing is so interesting to me because it's so much less about Caitlin Clark and so much more about us. It's so much more about our own sensibilities of race and gender and yes, jealousy and yes, who gets highlighted and spotlighted. And I think all of those things, to me, Michael, all of those things are not bad. I think it's human nature. I think people went out of their way to say nobody's jealous of Caitlin Clark. It's just competition. I tend to believe there's nothing wrong with jealousy. I think we give athletes all this credit. I'm gonna say all this credit. We talk about
there's nothing wrong with admitting it. How about that?
Yeah,
maybe there's nothing wrong with admitting it.
No, I think it's human. I really do. I think it's human. I think when we talk about Draymond Green being petty and NBA players being petty, we celebrate that. But for whatever reason, those same qualities and attributes, we can apply that to women in the WNBA and frame it within competitiveness and frame it within humanity and say it's natural that if women have been putting bricks in the ground for years and haven't been reaping the rewards, and then Caitlin Clark comes in, who looks a lot different, who brings a different audience, and she's getting rewards before she's putting bricks in this particular ground, yeah, that's a natural feeling of jealousy and frustration, and you would want to take it to them. Michael Holley, you know this like you know this. In our business, when if we notice that someone has skipped steps to get to a certain place and they become the next and newest and hottest thing, we like, hey man, what make them so special? What what are they doing that's different than other people who have been putting bricks in this ground for years and decades?
Time.
There's natural frustration that comes with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because as long as the competitiveness doesn't go overboard and go into trying to hurt somebody. But if you want to try to take it to them and try to make them prove to you that they are worth and valid all those other things, I have zero problem with competitive jealousy.
Natalie.
It happens all the time in sports. And women's basketball should be no different than any other sport that we have.
Correct.
Natalie,
it shouldn't be any different.
I've seen you shaking your head a couple of times, Natalie.
Yes.
So what's the head shaking about? Inform us. Bring us in.
Did I say something offensive?
No, but it's just like, with all due respect to Vincent and all the men, like this is women's business, like, just being frank. And that doesn't mean that y'all can't talk about it. That's not what we're saying. But I think there is a propensity and a tendency when it's woman to automatically ascribe something as jealousy. So yes, like the way Vincent described it as there's nothing wrong with that and that's normal and it's human, sure. And is there probably jealousy from certain people? Yes, but we don't know that. And the problem is that the prevailing narrative has been that it's jealousy. That's what the prevailing narrative has been. And it's summed up all the players as being jealous, right? And there can be multiple feelings and multiple emotions. And I think Monica McNutt made a great point of this yesterday, and where she said, like, we need to allow for more than one thing to be true. And, you know, she was on TV yesterday, and I watched Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. try to push her to say it. They're jealous. Like, it happens to me on social media. It happens to every woman that's covering it. Men are insistent on us acknowledging and saying these women are jealous of her. What has created the resentment, if to the extent that there is any, is how the media is covering her. And the insistence that people bow down to this woman and treat her like a savior. They're not saying that, but that's the way they're acting when they suggest it be taken lighter on her, right? You have NBA players going on podcasts and saying, oh, you know, like, don't do this, don't do that. And people are like, what, do you want them to let her win the game? And it's like, no, but you know, would you ever do that, Jeff Teague, who was saying that on his podcast? Are you gonna ever go easy on another player in competition? It's these kinds of crazy statements that keep being made. Everyone understands that Caitlin Clark is box office. We understand that. We understand what it does for the league. But it is a complete lie and incorrect when everyone says she saved the league. The league has been growing. It has had.
Well, who said that? Well, who said they say? Well, who said she saved the league? I think that's right. She has brought more eyeballs to the league, and I think that's clearly
right. No, but
the ratings have been going up for years.
Right, but those are comments that are being made, and I'm saying that's being made in the media. And when people say something like, "Oh, they needed this star," this is my issue, right? There are a lot of people talking about the WNBA right now who do not have the historical knowledge of it and do not have an understanding of the issues, and I feel.
But why is that? But why is that a problem?
And I'm gonna explain why. I'm gonna explain why.
This is the door being opened that Vinny talked about.
I'm gonna explain why, because there's not proper context for the conversations, right? So I agree. Like when we always talk about who's the face of the league, we do this in the NBA, right? People say, who's going to be the next face? Who's going to be the next face, right? And we had all this talk about Ant Edwards because it's like, well, the people choose who the next face is. Like the media can't dictate who it's going to be, right? That's an organic thing. So I get it. As someone who is, y'all know me, I am pro Steph Curry. There is not anyone who appreciates why people would love Caitlin Clark. I get it, right? So I understand the people are like, wow, she's exciting to watch. Understood, right? But there seems to be this thinking that from some, I'm not saying you, Vinny, I'm not saying you, Michael Holley, but there's this thinking from some that there are not exciting players in the league before. And what we're not understanding is the reason why you didn't know about some of these players, right? There wasn't an investment in women's basketball. If you ever notice when they start reporting all of the ratings about Caitlin Clark, it always says like the ones that came out today for the Sky Fever game, the third best in 22 years. It's never I don't want to say it's never, but it's often not the first ever, because when the WNBA first started, and in college, when women's basketball started, there was a lot of excitement for it. There was a lot of enthusiasm. It had a lot of momentum. And then all of a sudden, that momentum died. And no one ever questions why. They just say people weren't interested. But it died because it went to cable. It died because once it went to cable, that cable network made a decision not to invest in that product, not to give access to it, not to promote it, not to do that. So then people did not hear about these women. The stories of these women were not told. They were not promoted. So you don't know how exciting of a player Candace Parker was. You don't know how exciting of a player Maya Moore was, right? And so all of that happens. So now Caitlin Clark comes along and you guys are saying, nope, not you guys. I'm saying the talking points are, oh, we haven't seen this. No one can do. Well, Caitlin Clark, if she would have came along 5-10 years ago, I don't know that she would have had this wave because the investment was not there. And let's be clear, part of the reason this started is because people have been working behind the scenes, but it was also what happened a few years ago in the college tourney when Sedona, a player, brought light to the conditions of the women players where they were not receiving the same treatment, and so much attention came on that they had to start using the March Madness logo. They had to start promoting the college game more, and the college game got all this attention, and then it trickled up to the WNBA, and there were also efforts going on in the WNBA. I think that context matters. It matters to a lot of people who have been around, and I think it matters.
Yeah, context matters, but tell me, Vinny and Natalie, how you feel about this. Look, Natalie, I agree with you, and I agree with you, but I'm going in a different direction here. I agree that context matters in everything. I love context, but probably too much. I love it, all right? But I think the problem is that if you want context, context will not always be there with a spike in popularity. They generally don't connect to one another. So you, Natalie, with your knowledge of the WNBA and the NBA, you can have context in any conversation because you've been in it and you understand it. But somebody who's coming along and saying, hey, wait a minute, I like Caitlin Clark. I just watched Iowa a couple of years ago, and now she's going to the Indiana Fever. I don't even know who the coach of the Indiana Fever is. I didn't even know Indiana Fever had a team. I'm going to start watching.
That's fine.
There are a lot, but
that's fine. That's fine for the fan. That's not okay for the media.
Okay, that's different. Okay.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fans. Of course, we all come to the game for different reasons.
But there are going to be some media people like that too.
Right, but then you're telling falsities, and we're going to call it out, and that's all that's happening right now.
I think this is what, from my perspective, because I haven't even been able to really watch games so far because I've been so knee deep in the NBA playoff. You see clips here and there, but I haven't been able to go into it. I almost compare it to like diving into something like Michael Holley. Like, you know, me and you love music, right? If the first time you heard Stevie Wonder songs in the key of life, you're like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. And you haven't heard Inner Visions, or you haven't heard Talking Book, or you haven't heard Fulfilling This, and then you go back and say it. I think sometimes what happens is, whether it's media or fans, the heat of the opposition is so strong when someone says, oh, Caitlin Clark is this, and there's so much pushback. There's not a lot of grace and space given to welcome whatever these audiences are, whether it's media or whether it's fans. It's almost like, you know what it's like, Michael Holley? It's like watching your favorite band, right? You will see your favorite band at like this little bitty 500 seat theater, and then a year later, they're selling out 70,000 seat stadiums. You're gonna have some people in there who don't know the context, who don't know the history, who don't know as much as you do, but they spend money all the same. That's the way the thing grows. Everything doesn't grow at the same pace with the same people. It's no different. It doesn't make anybody right or wrong. You come on when you come on.
No, but I really strongly disagree with this, and this is why. Because
can I make a point? Can I make something real quick?
Go ahead.
No, just on the point that we were talking about earlier on the jealousy thing. Let me make something clear. I wasn't saying that was the prevailing emotion. I wasn't trying to communicate that it's the emotion that everybody feels. I was saying that that's something that is a factor into it. It doesn't have to be dominant. I just think it's something that's there. And to me, that's okay. It doesn't mean that it doesn't prevail over competition or all the other factors. I just wanted to make sure that, because you went straight into this is women's business, and I felt like it was a quality that was going to be ascribed if I didn't correct myself on that.
No, and I'm glad you did. And I was trying to make the point that, like, but that's been the predominant narrative. When Chuck Barkley comes out and he's like, y'all girls, you know, stop hating on Caitlin Clark. And LeBron James says what he says, everyone keeps focusing on this quote unquote hate, this jealousy. And so when the Chennedy Carter thing happens, right? Most of us, like, we're DMing. The people who are around, we're like, oh my God, Chennedy, please, why? Because now this is confirmation bias. They're going to take this and say, see, right? But before Chennedy Carter, you can't give me all the examples of the hate. You can't give me all the examples of the stuff that's happening. It's just something you're claiming is there without real value. People said Diana Taurasi Taurasi was hating on Caitlin Clark because she
She's
said
just-
the girl was going to have to adjust to the league. And by the way, she didn't only say it about Caitlin Clark. She said it about Caitlin Clark and Camila Cardozo. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, and to me, it's people who don't know Diana Taurasi, don't know how she talks, don't know her personality. So they heard that and they said, it's the way she said it. Well, that's Diana, and that's how she talks.
By the way, 20-year veteran Diana Taurasi, 20 years in the WNBA. So it's been going on for more than a few years and a 3-time champion. But Natalie, I don't want you to lose the point because you said you disagree with Vinny's analogy of the 500 seat little club to the 70,000 seat stadium. Why?
Because I felt like I've heard this from a lot of people who are new. And I want to be very clear because I appreciate you giving me respect saying I have this knowledge, but I am still a newer person to covering this league. I've been covering women's basketball for about 2 years, right? I'm an NBA girly, that's how I started, and I started on the men's side. And I had to go in, I had to learn, I had to get the history, I had to understand things. I was welcome to the space. Right? No one was like, what are you doing? You don't know what you're talking about. I've seen people like Nikias and other media members transfer over and it be fine. It is the people who come in like the guy who got banned in Indiana who come in with the weirdness. It's certain NBA people who come over and think that their expertise should be given some greater credibility because they've built that over there. But you haven't built that in the WNBA community. It's those who come and it's like, well, look, I'm giving you coverage now. It's like this thing, well, look, you're getting it now. And usually when you see that resistance and that pushback, it's that. People understand that people are new and they understand that like people are not going to know everything. But as a media member, to me, this is not about women's basketball or not. Like, I'm not talking about fans. I'm saying as a media member, to me, it should be a baseline. If you're going to cover something, you have to come with the requisite knowledge. And what we've been saying is, like, and Monica McNutt made this point yesterday, and I've actually said this to a few people when I've heard it, because it's mostly men I hear this from, saying this. I'm like, well, welcome to the world of being a woman. Because when we step foot into covering men's sports, we are expected to know everything, know every detail, have a certain level of knowledge, and then we are over criticized for little things. And so I'm just saying, like, I know, like, you need to come to this with respect and treat this with respect how you're going to cover something. And if you're not, then you're going to get pushback. And I think that's valid for a media member. For fans are going to be fans.
All right, let me ask you guys this as we wrap this up. And Greg Doyle is the Indianapolis Star columnist you were referring to. How about the columnist banned for the season? You ain't allowed to cover Caitlin Clark, and if you come within 200 yards of Caitlin Clark, we may have to call the police. I mean, you got to stay away because you were a weirdo during the press conference. But that being said, let's get to, and I want to get your take on this because I feel like we've gone too far with the foul. So Chennedy Carter's foul, it was a foul. It was not a basketball play. It should have been a flagrant one. Keep it moving. That's the way I look at it. I feel like the foul, the irony is Chicago Tribune, Angel Reese, Kennedy's teammate, got slammed by DeWanna Bonner. Now Bonner was thrown out of the game.
Alyssa Thomas.
Oh, Alyssa Thomas. Sorry. It was Alyssa Thomas. Alyssa Thomas thrown out of the game. She was ejected. It was a flagrant, I think it was a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2.
Flagrant 2, so she got ejected.
Okay, so flagrant 2, thrown out of the game, not a suspension. That was a hard foul. So the league says that foul was worse. Chicago Tribune editorial department ain't nothing to say about it. I ain't hear you say nothing. They didn't talk about that.
I'm trying to figure out who's in that room. I'm trying to figure out, Michael, who was in the room when they said, we got a hot one. We got something that's going to represent
There's pictures of them floating around. There's pictures of them floating around. You know who was in the room, Vinny.
No, I'm not saying exactly who, Natalie.
No, but I'm just saying. We know who was in the room. We know who it was.
Who said, man, we got a good beat here. Like, this beat is fire. I want to know who came up with that one, because that was dumb.
Chennedy Carter of Chicago hits Caitlin Clark, and the Chicago Tribune says that would be assault in a different context. Angel Reese of Chicago gets slammed, And the Chicago Tribune says nothing.
Hey, Michael, can you say something else about this hit real quick? Can you say something else real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Because I'm gonna let Natalie cook. No, because I don't want Natalie yelling at me. Because I feel like she's been yelling at me this whole time. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Not.
Natalie, I'm messing with you. Natalie, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. Can we be honest on two things? Just two things.
Okay.
One, that was a flop. I didn't see no muscle torque from Caitlin Clark. Like when you get hit hard, that muscle contracts, right? It just she felt contact and then boom, right? Went down. Smart play. Okay, you got the attention, you got the foul. All right, cool, right? Second part of it is, I saw something. I sent it to Gary Carter, and it wasn't Twitter. I can't think it's like the Instagram thing. What is the Instagram version of X now? And she said basically if she ain't got a 3-pointer, whatever it is. Like the one thing I will say is, if you're not going to answer the question in the post game, then tweeting about it or whatever, posting about it, that's going to bring on scrutiny on that end.
Right.
It is, and I agree with that. And I want to just say that.
But it was a flop. That was a flop, and she knew it was a flop.
It was definitely a flop. And I'm glad that you said that, Vince, because I was about to say, like, I'm tired of all this shit. Like, I've been having the grace period of, tiptoeing around things, right? But, like, this is big girl basketball, okay? You're in a professional league. And this incessant need to coddle Caitlin Clark is annoying me. And the fact that I can't talk about her the way I would talk about Luka and his flopping or James Harden and his flopping annoys me, because if I say anything remotely critical, I am a hater. I'm a black woman hating on this white woman. And any woman, I said something, Tim Legler said the same thing, and I was hit with vitriol, and it was like, yeah, Tim Legler, you're making a good point. Like, we just gotta get past this, you know what I'm saying? Like, Caitlin Clark, first of all, because since everyone likes to put together videos of everything that's happening to her on the court, someone put together a video of all she does on the court, okay? Like, Caitlin Clark talks shit. She's a trash talker.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
And what I want to say, because I know y'all said about context, but I do think this context is important and why so many of us are responding the way we do. Because Chennedy Carter should be treated as an isolated incident. And I'm saying that because, in the NBA, there are some players that have reputations, right? There are some players that have reputations. Well, I'm not going to describe Chennedy Carter. I'm going to tell people to go do their research and look her up. She describes herself as a dog, right? And I'm saying a dog in terms of basketball, people. Like, everyone understands what I'm saying when I say that, right? And so that means different things to different people. But what I'm saying is, this does not surprise me what she did coming from Chennedy Carter. The other thing, though, that I'm going to say is that she did speak about it. She did address the media a day or two later, and she spoke. And whether people think it's acceptable or not, she said, I'm not someone, I need time to gather my thoughts, and speaking in the heat of the moment probably wouldn't have been the best thing for me to do. Whether you think that's okay or not, that's what she said, and then she talked about it. But she made it very clear, like, Caitlin elbowed her or did something physical and she reacted. And did she overreact? Sure. Should it have been a flagrant? Yes. But a hip check? We're acting like this over a hip check? Please, like, I don't get it. And she does flop. And so a lot of these videos where you see her falling to the floor, that's her trying to sell the foul. And baby, it's just not.
She got nailed by Stewie on that screen. Was that Stewie that nailed her on the screen?
But Vince, that was a screen.
I'm just saying one play. I'm
that play being used as an example.
I'm not taking away your whole point.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying she got nailed on that one.
Yeah, but that's because she ran into the screen. That's more on her teammates calling it out, which we don't know if they did and she just didn't hear her. But that's not because Brianna said some crazy screen. And I just don't want typical, listen, people who used to watch the NBA and love the physicality of the NBA, understand the WNBA is a big league, okay? They play through the post. They are a big league. And all these guards, Kelsey Plum will tell you, she used to get thrown to the floor all the time. And you know what they had to do? You know what she had to do? You know what Diana had to do? They had to get their weight up. And Caitlin will get her weight up and she will be better. Just like we had to watch Steph Curry, the player people love to compare her to, get his weight up in the NBA, and people can't just push him around anymore like they used to. This is just part of the process, people. It's part of the process.
Well, there's a part of the process, and I'll end with this. There's a lot to get to under this tent that is now open. The WNBA, it's must-see TV. A lot of people are coming in. Some of them have context. Some of them don't. And to make the conversation even more interesting and controversial, We were talking about this Chennedy Carter foul, and shortly after that, guess who's named the WNBA's Rookie of the Month? A lot of people thought it'd be Cameron Brink, but no, it was Caitlin Clark. So
Did they?
Yeah, Rookie of the Month, 6.4 assists, up there in threes. However, she's only shooting about 30%.
We never talk about the shooting percentages with her. We
30%.
only talk
Only
about
30%.
the raw totals, and that's done for
Yeah.
a reason. I didn't think Cameron Brink was going to win, but
yeah. So Rookie of the Month already, Caitlin Clark. The conversation will continue on the way out as we put the music on and say goodbye. I want to get from you, Natalie. Who you got? Mavericks or Celtics?
Celtics.
And how many? And how many?
I think it's probably going the distance, but I got Celtics winning it all.
Celtics in 7. Vinny, you go get off the fence, Vinny, or you just go wait till media day, because you don't want to make any enemies when you fly into Boston.
Are you forgetting I'm the man with commitment issues? I stay on the fence.
Okay.
He didn't pick?
Well, yeah. You better get off
Mavs
that
in
fence.
6.
You cut.
Mavs and
Mavs
6.
Woo! Welcome.
Did I
good.
stutter?
They'll be waiting for you.
Why are you so spicy?
They'll be waiting for you at Logan Airport. Come
Mavs
on in.
and 6.
Yeah, ready to send my ass back to Detroit.
Good to see y'all. Great talking ball. I love it.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.